Hello, Sacramento. Welcome to a candidate forum featuring candidates for the Board of Supervisors of Sacramento County. I'm Paula Lee, a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and moderator for this forum. The forum is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission. The forum is being viewed live by an audience in the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors chambers and by live cable television audiences at home. It's also being taped for rebroadcast on Metro Cable Channel 14. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of men and women established to promote political responsibility through informed, active participation in government. The League does not support or oppose or evaluate political candidates or political parties. Although our nonpartisanship policy does not permit endorsement of candidates, we do, after careful study, take positions on issues. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will make a 1.5-minute opening statement. Next, the candidates will respond to questions from our expert media panel. These questions were submitted by the panelists and reviewed by League members. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the questions. And then finally, the candidates will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. Now I'd like to introduce the candidates who are running. Welcome, and thank you for agreeing to participate today in the forum. First candidate to my right is Julie Sams, Roberta MacGlashan, and Gary Blenner. Sitting on our expert media panel is Pia Lopez from the Sacramento Bee and Callie Kettinger-Cecil from the League of Women Voters. And thank you for participating. Now we're ready to begin. And we'll begin with opening statements, and we'll begin with Julie Sams. Julie?
Yes, good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity to me. I'm very grateful and very optimistic about running for this office. I've got more than 25 years in business and business development as a businesswoman. I had started my career as a chemist for Tandy Electronics back in 1984 after graduating from San Jose State University with a degree in justice administration with a human biology emphasis. I have had divestiture, acquisition, initial public offering, planning background and experiences, as well as working for institutional, industrial, and commercial real estate development. What I hope to bring to this position is clarity, simplicity, and a sense of responsibility as an elected official. I believe that the top priorities are to be transparent, accountable, and to have special sensitivity to the neighborhoods and their needs in their districts. I think that their child protective and adult protective services are especially important, and an integrated traffic transportation plan, very important. Thirdly, is to get a hold of the pension debacle that's going on right now and get that solved so that the erosion of revenue is not going to be detrimental to the citizens in District 4. Thank you.
And Roberta MacGlashan.
My name is Roberta MacGlashan, and I'm running for re-election to the County Board of Supervisors. It's not a secret that the economic downturn has hit Sacramento hard, but the county has weathered the storm. It hasn't been easy, and we have had to make painful cuts. But we have maintained core services like law enforcement without job-killing tax increases. In fact, we currently have more officers on patrol than we did before the cuts and have brought back the gang unit and the sheriff's helicopter. While other local governments are facing draconian cuts to public safety, raising taxes, or considering bankruptcy, Sacramento County has already secured significant pension reform. And when the pension board tried to give big pay increases to fund managers, I pushed to block those raises. I even cut my own pay and my staff because it was the right thing to do. 3 years ago, I organized a citizens committee who combed through the county budget and found millions in savings. None of this has been easy, and there are some folks out there who really would like me to stop, but I won't. Government does have a role to play. Locally, we provide public safety, health care, build better roads, and provide a helping hand to the least among us. Those are important, legitimate goals for government. But government is not the solution to every problem. Government doesn't create jobs, businesses do. So I will continue to work to limit the size of county government, fight against efforts to raise taxes on families, and make sure that keeping neighborhoods safe is the main priority of the county.
Gary Blenner.
Yes, hi. My name is Gary Blenner, and I'm a candidate for the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to, first of all, thank the League of Women Voters, Metro Cable Channel 14, as well as my two opponents for this opportunity here today. Let me just tell you a little bit about my background. I've been a teacher at Rio Americano High School for the past 18 years. I also served on the school board in the Center Joint Unified School District from 2006 to 10. And since September of 2011, I have proudly been a member of the local chapter of the Sacramento County ACLU. Right now, Sacramento County is facing a major crisis, and over the past 8 years, we've seen our taxes, our sales taxes go up, while our county services have gone down. And I think there's one very important reason as to why that's occurring, and that's because the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, including the incumbent, Ms. MacGlashan, appears to be in the pocket of special interest. They are wholly in the hands of the people, the land speculators, the land developers that have robbed this county blind. They essentially caused the housing bubble that caused housing prices to go up, and then upon its collapse, basically everything was left in the hands of county taxpayers. I want to move Sacramento County in a different direction. I want a foreclosure moratorium. I want to protect the environment. I want to reform government and make the Board of Supervisors a part-time institution, cut their pay in half, and let them know what it's like to go out and get a real job in the real world, as well as provide an incentive for jobs to be created in this county. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now our questions. We'll begin with Callie Kettinger-Cecil. If you could direct your first question to Julie Sams.
Hi, Julie. What is the #1 priority for your district, and what is the #1 priority for the county as a whole?
For the district, I believe it is right now the child protective and adult protective services. That entire umbrella is something that the residents that I've met with are very concerned about, so I see that as a top priority. Second to that would be an integrated transportation plan, being that the area of the county is distant from the core of downtown Sacramento.
Roberta MacGlashan.
Same question? Mm-hmm. As I've said in the past, and I continue to say, that public safety is the top priority for the residents of my district and the county. I've held hundreds of public meetings throughout my district in the last 8 years, and that is what I continue to hear. And that includes the Sheriff's Department, probation, and the District Attorney's Office, as well as Child Protective Services and other departments that are focused on public safety.
And Gary Blenner?
I think the #1 priority is obviously jobs. We have to find a way to create jobs in Sacramento County, and there are several ways we can do that. First of all, we could secure the funds necessary to create a stimulus to fix the roads and the bridges and overpasses that seem to be in disrepair in District 4. Secondly, we can encourage landlords to lower the rents on vacant strip malls that are out there, and actually create a financial incentive for small businesses to grow and thrive and create the sales tax revenue necessary to restore some of the public services that have been cut. I find it surprising that Ms. MacGlashan, you basically go ahead and talk about public safety. Obviously, Child Protective Services, Adult Protective Services, County Health, these are all part of public safety, and yet they're not at the top of your priority list.
Okay, next question from Pia Lopez for Roberta MacGlashan.
Roberta, can you describe your district, the pieces of it, where you reside in it, and how a county board member should go about learning about the different parts of the district?
Well, the way to learn about your district is to be out there every day, which I do. And as I mentioned, I've held almost 350 public meetings and town halls throughout the district since I've been a county supervisor. The district now with redistricting starts with Rancho Murrieta, goes up to Folsom, Gold River, where I reside, Orangevale, Citrus Heights, Antelope, and Rio Linda and Alberta. It's a very diverse district, but I'm out there every day, every week, every month, holding community meetings and hearing from the residents of the district. So I feel that it's the best way to keep in touch is to be out there as much as you can.
Gary Blenner?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
How would you describe your district, where you reside in it, and how you would go about learning the different parts of that district if you are elected?
Well, I think it's a very interesting gerrymandered district as it stands now. It's the northern and eastern parts of the county, and as Roberta said, very diverse. I live in Antelope. I think it's a great area. I think my service on the school board, I think, has made me visible in the community and so forth. Part of the attendance area where I teach is in Gold River. And I think that even though some of the areas in the district are actually incorporated, I think the unincorporated parts are sort of left behind in the district, and that seems to be underrepresented now by the current incumbent.
Julie Sams?
I too agree with the importance of jobs. I have been in economic development and business development. I know how to create jobs. I've created a lot of innovative processes in my career, of which we'd hire people directly to do that. So I had not only direct reports, but hiring responsibility in a majority of my career. So the jobs is number one. The county does not create jobs. The county just is supposed to keep the obstacles out of the way so that private investors can come here and create jobs. I'd like to see that happen in Sacramento County. Then the revenue will return, and then we can have a more vital public services available through the county as is expected by its residents.
Okay, Callie, your question first for Gary Blenner.
Hi, Gary. So you mentioned that jobs is a very important piece of your campaign, and I'm wondering how specifically you plan to increase job growth in your district.
Well, there's two ways to do that. You can, with regards to the restoration of public services, that would be one thing I would like to do. And then, of course, people say, well, where are you going to get the money for that? And again, there are two ways you can do that. You can either raise the revenue or you can cut spending from other areas to provide for those jobs. I would like to go after the revenue source, particularly the land developers and speculators that I spoke about earlier. I think it's very important that the county not be in a position whereby it essentially untaxes those sources of income. For example, if you've got an acre of land that is worth $2,000 an acre and suddenly the county rezones it and it's worth $40,000 an acre, that's an untapped revenue. We can actually tax that. I know my opponent is opposed to that. If you look at her list of contributors, it's like a who's who of every crook that robbed the county blind. But in any event, we could go after that revenue, use it to restore public services, help to create jobs. And my goal eventually would be to, if we could, to lower the sales tax revenue to actually allow for businesses to grow in the county.
Julie Sams?
The question regarding growth of jobs in the county is to get the obstacles out of the way so private investors can do what it is they're best at doing, and that is creating vibrant economies. The obstacles that are in the way is a very burdensome permitting process and fees process. I'm opposed to increasing the taxes and the fees because that will discourage business rather than invite business. Like I've said, I've helped develop a lot of processes in my career, growing into companies and then being able to divest, sell, and be dynamic with those processes. I know it works. I've been there. I've done that. I have the energy to do that and the know-how to do that. I'd like Sacramento to be the region that businesses want to come to, rather than the current reputation it has is everything goes to Sacramento to die. It is taxed to death up here and feed to death. And businesses are not attracted for that reason. I, if elected, can make a change within that regard. I know how to do that. I have networks. I know how to develop that. And I would do it transparently, with accountability, and with people consistent with how the residents would like to see it be done. Thank you.
Roberta MacGlashan?
Yes. The county cannot control what the state of California does, and California is not a business-friendly state, but we can control what we do ourselves here in the county. And there are many things we can do and that we are doing. Reducing regulations on businesses and reducing fees and holding the line on fees, at this difficult time, working with the Sac Metro Chamber of Commerce on their Next Economy program to diversify the economy of the region so that we are not just reliant on government and construction. And also by working with our educational institutions to train people for the kinds of jobs that we want here in Sacramento County that pay well, by not increasing taxes on businesses in the county, and also creating complete communities that have jobs as well as housing. Those are the things that we can do to improve the Sacramento County economy and create jobs.
Next question from Pia Lopez for Julie Sams.
Julie, in October last year, the state policy of sentencing certain nonviolent, non-serious offenders to the counties began. So I have a two-part question. One, do you agree with that state policy that that's where those kinds of convicts belong? And two, do you think that the county has the right balance? It's done a little bit different. It's put more money into the jails than other counties have. So is it the right policy, and is it being carried out right in Sacramento?
I think the nonviolent offender policy is generally a good policy. Whether it's being carried out correctly in every line item of its procedures that are being executed here in Sacramento County, I can't tell you that yes or no. I really don't know every single detail about it. I do think nonviolent offenders, though, should be able to be serviced through the parole system, and presently, I believe that's being done.
Roberta MacGlashan.
So realignment, I would characterize it as an experiment at the expense of counties and residents of counties. It was hastily put together by the state to solve their own budget problem, but we have to live with it and work with it now. It is a work in progress, and this is only the first year of that program. So the fact that it has concentrated more on incarceration this year does not mean that that's going to be the focus next year. And I believe that there should be a balance between incarceration and monitoring of inmates with programs and counseling. But I would caution that the list of non-serious offenses, if you read that list, I think you would have great doubts about those being not serious. And we have inmates being sentenced now to county jail who would have gone to state prison, who are there now for 10 or 13 years. Our system was never designed for that.
Gary Blenner.
If I'm not mistaken, something like 70% of the people in our prisons at the county and at the state level are there because of some sort of drug issue. And that's one of the things that I believe that the county needs to address that it has not been doing. So I'm completely opposed to the current realignment program. I think we need to shift more of our resources towards dealing with the issue of addiction and rehabilitation rather than keeping people in jail and so forth. Now, obviously, the violent offenders, obviously, they need to stay. I think those that are involved in nonviolent drug offenses, you can put an ankle bracelet on them and send them home. That would actually save the county some money and put it into some of the resources that I feel that we need. As I said before, Child Protective Services, county health services, dealing with the homeless issue, things that are not being addressed by the county government. So that's where I stand on the issue.
Callie, your question for Roberta MacGlashan first.
Roberta, Sacramento County is home to the Los Rios Community College District, CSU Sacramento, and UC Davis is just right across the way. I am concerned as a student myself because the grad unemployment rate is hovering at around 50% according to some studies. And I'm wondering how you plan to retain students in the area and keep this talented workforce.
Good question, and we're fortunate to have the Los Rios Community College District and UC Davis and Sac State, and I believe we could use more institutions of higher learning, and that would help to diversify our economy further. We need to work closely with the educational institutions and businesses so that students are being trained for the jobs that either are here now or that would come here if we had the trained workforce. There needs to be a closer connection between the types of training that are needed for jobs that pay well and what students are learning. And again, the Sac Metro Chamber with their Next Economy is working to promote this, and I believe that the county should work with them so that we can have a more diverse economy. People are better trained, and we have the ability to attract businesses to this county.
Gary Blenner?
Well, I'll tell you what we should not be doing. We should not be giving $400,000 to Virgin Atlantic to come out to the airport and giving more of our taxpayer money to a multinational corporation, which is what the Board of Supervisors has done. We need to build the strength that we have here in our area, and I would certainly want to focus in on green jobs. We have one of the best park systems in Northern California, if not in California. We have a lot of potential in using county services to actually stimulate the economy and produce green jobs, and using renewable sources of energy like solar and wind power and so forth. The other thing we can do, as I mentioned beforehand, is to create a vacancy tax for those strip malls that are actually sitting vacant, for those landlords that are obstinate who would rather have a tax write-off than actually lower the rent so that businesses can move to this area, grow, and thrive. So rather than encouraging multinational corporations to move to this area, we need to build from the strengths that we have here. Green jobs, locally based economy.
Julie Sams?
I think that the number one objective in providing a good employment base for the excellent colleges, universities, and organized labor trade schools that are in this region, which are abundant and are fantastic, is to create a business-friendly environment here. And if this is a business-friendly environment here in Sacramento County, release those tax burdens, release those fee burdens, businesses will come here, and there will be plentiful jobs. There will be jobs in hopeful advanced manufacturing, biomedical, pharmaceutical. Well, we know it's mostly biomedical rather than pharmaceutical, but anyway, those would be great for the employment base for the student population here in this region. Get the obstacles out of the way for the private investor to bring their investments to this region.
Pia Lopez, your question for Gary Blenner.
Gary, you mentioned the park system as one of the jewels of the county, yet this park system has been struggling. The funding has been declining. Can you talk a little bit about how you, as a member of the board, would stabilize the funding for the park system, and also how you would create the park system of the future?
Well, there's a lot there to talk about. The first thing I would do is basically yank away the gift that the Board of Supervisors gave to Doug Ossie and his friends at Gibson Ranch. I don't believe that the county should be turning over the administration of parks to a for-profit agency. One of the things that I think we can do is to create a special district, much like they have in the Bay Area, in the East Bay Park District, to actually have one specific function of government with a specific guaranteed source of funding to make sure that the parks are in fact stable. The other thing I would do is to sort of change the way that this county is growing. We're growing in urban sprawl all over the place, and I would like to change the zoning from, rather than zoning something as residential or commercial or something along those lines, but have it zoned by height of building. Because then what you'll have are more sustainable communities, community neighborhoods and so forth. We have right now the 5th worst air quality of any metropolitan area in the country, and we need to do something about it. And I don't believe the policies of the Board of Supervisors are adequate.
Julie Sams?
With regards to the parks, with regards to the parks and those providing jobs, they do provide jobs, and I think that the park system does need to be sustained. It is an asset of the corporation of Sacramento County. It is an asset of the people. We have, again, some of the best institutions in this region who study that and understand that, and sustaining that needs to be had. I do not align myself with my opponent's opinion about privatizing some of the park systems. I have visited many park systems across the country of which there's privatization taking care of some of those resources, and it's done so very well. They bring innovation and they bring simplicity to it.
Roberta MacGlashan?
The way we address the situation with the county parks is by doing things differently. And the residents of the 4th District who I talk to are extremely happy that Gibson Ranch is open again and being operated by former Congressman Ossie. Two of our 3 county golf courses are managed by for-profit companies. It's not an experiment. The parks are open. It's costing us less money to have them open than it was costing us to have them closed. We've also just instituted a new park ranger reserve program to supplement our paid park rangers, and I'm opposed to a tax increase for parks when we can do all of these things without raising taxes. And just on an earlier point, no county tax dollars are spent at the airport. It's all airport revenues. It can never be spent anywhere else but at the airport.
And time is flying. This will be our last question Callie will have, and we'll begin with Julie Sams.
Julie, one way to increase economic growth in an area is from development from commercial, real estate, and industry. And I'm wondering how you will balance the land use issue of development versus land preservation for environmental concerns.
The planning and zoning process needs to be a closely coupled process and also seen as 2 separate processes. The planning process deals with how connected all the different components are within the infrastructure, and then the zoning has to do overall with the area. So being able to take a look at both those things separately and then those things as integrated to come up with the final decision for that best decision is, I believe, the way the process should function. I believe that it has not functioned that way in some aspects, and most prevalently in residential development. I have not seen the problem with commercial or institutional or industrial development in this region, rather residential, which has eroded the home values and created a catastrophic situation for Sacramento County homeowners. And I think it's a decade until it's overcome or more.
Roberta MacGlashan.
Well, I am a planner by profession, and so I'm very familiar with the development process. The County Board of Supervisors recently unanimously adopted a new general plan for this county that addresses development in a completely different way than we did before, looking at smart growth, complete communities, complete streets, jobs, as well as housing, and requiring more mitigation than ever in the history of the county for development of agricultural land, requiring that agricultural land be mitigated on a one-to-one basis if it is included for development, and preserving land for parks and for open space is a part of that plan, and it is a state-of-the-art plan that will serve the county well for many years to come.
Well, I think what Ms. MacGlashan describes as smart growth is more of a developer giveaway, because the recent plans for development I'm completely opposed to. We've got so many people in our district that are underwater in their mortgage because of what has happened in the past few years. And to continue to develop at the rate that we're going is, I think, a terrible thing to the people who can't afford to pay their mortgage and are facing foreclosure or part of this whole, foreclosure crisis. So when I say smart growth, what I mean by that is that we actually have real commitment to the environment, to open spaces. We don't have to have every single piece of land developed on. And as I said before, if we change our development growth to height of building rather than by zone, you can actually have real community neighborhoods, something that'll look something closer to like McKinley Park than something that looks like Roseville, where people can actually walk to stores and actually enjoy the park system that we have here and so forth. So that's sort of where I'm going on that issue.
And now it's time for closing remarks, and we begin with Julie Sams.
I'd like to offer to the residents of Sacramento County and District 4 that I would be your best choice for supervisor, given my broad and deep experience. and my education, and I would be a breath of fresh air in the decision-making processes. I offer you that the current incumbent was on the board for two terms, of which the time that the residential overbuilding was allowed for, that eroded the values and is a catastrophic situation for this county right now, and it'll take quite a while to be able to recover from it. I also am the choice of a candidate who understands industry, who understands the relationship and the negotiations process to bring industry here, to invest. And that's what I think will revive this county. It'll be an excellent place for our students to work. It'll provide the income base and the revenue base for our adult protective services and our child protective services that are needed. Thank you.
Roberta MacGlashan.
Thank you to the League for hosting this forum. Participation is what makes democracy work, and that's why I've worked hard to listen to my district and why I've held hundreds of community meetings over the past 8 years. As supervisor, I've cut my own pay, balanced the budget every year, and opposed tax increases. I've successfully fought to keep public safety our top priority. I've worked to reform pensions and block pay raises for highly paid pension managers. My priorities have been and will continue to be keeping the budget balanced without new taxes, ensuring public safety is our top priority, and continuing to push reforms that make it easier to do business and create jobs. And until the financial crisis is over, I will continue to cut my own salary and refuse any pay raise. My name is Roberta MacGlashan, and I ask for your support and your vote for County Supervisor. You can learn more about me on robertamacglashan.com and on Facebook. Thank you.
And Gary Blenner.
I again would like to thank the League of Women Voters, Metro Cable Channel 14, as well as my two opponents for this opportunity. Sacramento County is facing a crisis, and I believe that we need to move in a different direction. As I said beforehand, the county needs to do something about the foreclosure crisis. I will push for a foreclosure moratorium and actually impose a fee on banks so that they have the incentive to negotiate with people to stay in their homes. I will protect the environment. I will provide for the creation of real community-based neighborhoods, a smart growth strategy. I stand for reforming government. I want to make the Board of Supervisors a part-time entity, cut their pay more so than my opponent has actually cut her own, down to $50,000 a year, and save this county $250,000, as well as provide a stimulus for the creation of new jobs. After 8 years of the same tired, failed policies, why do we need another 4 years of the same thing? I believe that this county can do better. I ask for your vote on Tuesday, June 5th. Please go to www.garyblennerforsupervisor.com for more information. Thank you, and I, again, thank you for this opportunity.
And on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and the Sacramento Metro Cable Television Commission, I thank the candidates, Julie Sams, Roberta MacGlashan, and Gary Blenner, and all the volunteers that made this forum possible. And thank you to the panelists, Pia Lopez from the B and Kelly Kettinger-Cecil from the League of Women Voters. The forum has been designed to impart information to you, the voter, in accordance with our belief that good government depends on the informed and active participation of its citizens. We hope that the insights that you've gained from this forum today will aid you in making your decision. For voter information and a schedule of the rebroadcast of these forums, please visit the Smart Voter website. That's smartvoter.org, or you can get that information from the Sacramento County League of Women Voters website, which is lwvsacramento.org. And remember, the League welcomes both women and men as members, because the League is where hands-on work to safeguard democracy leads to civic improvement. Thank you.